My wife texted, "I want a divorce. All communication through my lawyer." I replied, "Understood." Then I canceled her credit cards, cut all financial support. 72 hours later, her lawyer was frantically calling me. Original post. I, 42M, am still processing, but mostly just operating on autopilot. Feels weirdly calm. 3 days ago, Tuesday afternoon, deep in work spreadsheets, my phone buzzed. My wife, Olivia, 39F. The text was short, brutal. Olivia, "Ethan, I want a divorce. Please direct all future communication through my lawyer, Mr. Peterson. His contact details will follow." 15 years of marriage, ended via text. No warning. We'd had dinner the night before, talked weekend plans. Normal. Nothing suggested this. I stared at it for maybe 5 minutes. Shock, hurt, anger. Yeah, all there, simmering below. But surface level? Cold clarity. She set the terms. Lawyers only. Okay. My reply. Understood. Then, practicality took over. Legal channels meant informal marriage arrangements were instantly void. We always kept our main finances separate for day-to-day stuff. Learned that lesson from my parents' messy split. She had her personal account, I had mine. Credit cards. Olivia had supplementary cards on my accounts. Not joint ownership, just authorized user status I granted. Logged into banking apps. Click. Cards canceled. Reported user no longer authorized. Done. Allowance. I transferred her a monthly sum to her personal account for discretionary spending. Logged into my bank. Canceled the recurring transfer. Effective immediately. Shared subscriptions, Netflix, Prime, etc., under my name. Logged out all other devices. Changed passwords. She wants streaming, she buys it. Car. The car she drives is leased in my name, my insurance. Didn't cancel insurance immediately, too risky for everyone on the road, but noted to discuss the lease transfer with my lawyer ASAP. Gas card tied to a canceled credit card? Useless now. Took maybe 30 minutes. Not revenge, just accepting the new reality she dictated. She drew the line. Lawyers only. Fine. Lawyers work on formal agreements, not assumptions based on a marriage she just ended. Her lawyer's details arrived via email an hour later. Forwarded them straight to Ms. Cole, a top divorce attorney a colleague recommended. Emailed Ms. Cole. Received text demanding divorce, lawyers only. Complied. Need immediate counsel on next steps, asset protection. Advise retainer. Finished my work project, went home. House was empty. She must have packed while I was out. Slept okay, surprisingly. Fast forward 72 hours. Friday afternoon, unknown number rings. Had a feeling. Hello? Is this Ethan? Ethan's last name? Sharp, impatient voice. Speaking. This is Mr. Peterson. I represent Olivia, Olivia's last name. My client is experiencing some difficulties. Okay? Level voice. Her cards declined. Funds cut off abruptly. Highly irregular, Mr. Ethan's last name. Financial status quo is generally maintained during separation. Mr. Peterson, I said calmly. My wife texted Tuesday demanding divorce, stating all communication must go through you. I acknowledged and complied. Informal financial arrangements ceased. Future support needs formal legal discussion through you and my counsel, Ms. Cole, whom I'm retaining. Pause. Paper shuffling. She needs funds now. Necessities, accommodation. Accommodation? Genuine surprise. Where is she? Not pertinent. You acted in bad faith, cutting her off without warning. Mr. Peterson, voice cooler now. My wife unilaterally ended our marriage via text and set the lawyers only rule. She ended the status quo of trust and communication. Financial support will be determined legally, not by frantic calls over declined cards she wasn't the primary holder of. Longer pause. My client seeks emergency financial relief, he said stiffly. Her prerogative, I replied. Direct filings to my attorney, Ms. Cole. You have her details? Yes, he clipped. Excellent. Conversation concluded per my wife's directive. Good day. Hung up. Heart pounding now, adrenaline kicking in. But also, validation. She wanted cold and legal, she's getting it. Exactly. Waiting for Ms. Cole's call. This is just the start. Update 1. 1 week later. Been a week since the text. Things heated up, as expected. Thanks for the comments, DMs. Good to know I'm not nuts. Ms. Cole got back same day, Mr. Peterson called. She's good. Confirmed my actions were logical given Olivia's text. Advised. Document everything. Mr. Peterson's first move came Monday. Formal request for emergency temporary spousal support, plus exclusive use of the marital home, which she'd already left, LOL. The amount? Astronomical. Basically wanted me to fund her old lifestyle plus new housing plus legal fees. Entitlement level? Expert. Ms. Cole responded. Countered with much lower temporary support based on actual need, not wants. Noted she left the home I still occupy. Highlighted her lawyers-only rule and my actions as a direct consequence. Then, the personal attacks began. Olivia's BFF, Haley, called Wednesday night. Answered hoping for intel. Mistake. Ethan, what the actual fuck? No hello. Haley, tiredly. Don't Haley me. Olivia's on my couch. You cut her off. She couldn't buy groceries, making her homeless? Haley, Olivia demanded divorce via text, lawyers only. I respected her wishes. Bullshit! You know she barely works. How can she live? She's terrified. Olivia's part-time graphic design gig nets. 1 couch month, mostly fun money before. She hired a lawyer before talking to me, I said. Financials go through him and my lawyer. The process she chose. Cruel, vindictive. After 15 years, she was emotional, made a mistake. Instructing lawyers only is a specific mistake, Haley. Was hiring Mr. Peterson also a mistake? Silence. Then, she deserves support. You always took care of her. And I would have discussed things amicably if she hadn't nuked the marriage via text and lawyered up. She set the rules. We follow them now. She'll take you for everything, Haley spat. She can try, I said calmly. Filed legally? My attorney handles it. Not discussing this further. Goodbye. Click. So, I'm the bad guy for following instructions. The narrative she's spinning is pure victimhood. Also got a bank alert yesterday. An attempted withdrawal from an old savings account. Turns out, there was one joint account we'd opened ages ago and completely forgotten about. It wasn't part of our active finances. It only had about $500 left in it. Olivia apparently found the debit card and tried to drain it. Bank flagged the sudden activity on the dormant account. Went straight there, explained the pending divorce, froze the account pending legal agreement. Not about the money. It's the attempt while her lawyer screams bad faith at me. Ms. Cole says this actually helps us. Shows Olivia isn't just passively waiting, but actively trying back channels outside the process she demanded. Waiting for the emergency support hearing court date. Olivia still couch surfing at Haley's. Mr. Peterson must be realizing his client expected a blank check, not reality. Feeling less shock, more grim determination. This is gonna suck. Update 2, 3 weeks later. Okay, it got dirtier. Shocking, I know. Had the emergency support hearing last week. Olivia was there, looking stressed, avoiding my gaze. Mr. Peterson argued she was destitute, victimized by my malicious actions. Ms. Cole calmly presented the text. Olivia initiated lawyers only. Bank statements. Showed I canceled supplementary cards allowance tied to my accounts after the text. Proof. I still paid mortgage, utilities, lease, insurance, major fixed costs. Evidence. Her attempt to drain the dormant forgotten joint account after demanding lawyers. Her income. Showed her part-time earnings proved she wasn't destitute, just missing discretionary funds. Judge wasn't buying Mr. Peterson's drama. Asked Olivia why no prior discussion. She mumbled, intimidated. LOL, I'm not. Judge seemed skeptical. Result? Temporary support ordered, way closer to our figure than theirs. Enough for basics, contribution to legal fees, but zero funding for her old lifestyle. Judge basically told Olivia her own actions, the text, the account drain attempt, contributed to her current situation. Dodged a bullet, felt like. But they weren't done. This week, the real games started. Dirty trick number 1. Call from my HR. Anonymous complaint. Alleged misuse of company resources for personal legal stuff. False, used personal devices / email only. And erratic behavior, suggesting instability. Thankfully, my boss knows me. Complaint was vague. HR checked logs. Nothing. Quick chat with me. Calmly explained basics. Dismissed it. Clear attempt to mess with my job. Low. Ms. Cole noted it. Tough to prove anonymous source, but adds to pattern. Dirty trick number 2. Olivia's mother called. Tears, accusations. How could you? She's struggling. Judge unfair. Give her more money. Think of the years she gave you. Same response. Olivia chose this path. Lawyers handle financials as she requested. Can't discuss. Called heartless, hung up, relentless emotional manipulation. They really thought I'd just keep paying forever. My response, sticking to logic under fire. Their tactics just clarified the situation. Simply reacting wasn't enough. I needed to proactively secure my position legally and shut down avenues for manipulation, strictly by the book. The car. Ms. Cole sent Mr. Peterson a letter. Temporary support established? Olivia needs to handle the car, take over lease, if qualified, or return it. I stop payments next cycle. Insurance cover, which I'd maintained, would cease concurrently. 30 days. Her problem to solve within the legal framework. The house. Filed for formal exclusive use since she left and judge didn't grant it to her. Started valuation process for sale buyout. Buyout unlikely given her finances. Establishing clear legal control. Asset division. Pushing for immediate, full financial discovery. Suspect hidden assets on her side. Time for transparency, legally mandated. Hiding things, Alsh's court trouble. Documenting harassment. Logged every manipulative call, the work complaint. Dates, times, summary. Ms. Cole says pattern of bad faith tactics influences final settlement legal fees. It's not about revenge, it's about methodically managing the situation within the legal boundaries she established, especially now that they were resorting to underhanded tactics. The work complaint crossed a line, making firm, decisive legal steps essential. Olivia texted me directly yesterday, breaking her own rule. Ethan, you can't take the car. How will I get anywhere? Please stop this. Screenshotted, sent to Ms. Cole. Replied, Olivia, per your instructions. Date, all communication via lawyers. Contact Mr. Peterson. Silence. Final update, 6 months later. About 7 months since the text. Divorce finalized last month. Feels like ages ago. Time for the final update. The last 6 months were legal trench warfare. Mr. Peterson delayed. Olivia played victim, rejected reasonable offers. The car. Major fight. She couldn't qualify for lease takeover, refused to return it. Mr. Peterson argued necessity. Ms. Cole countered, temp support covers basic transport. Deadline passed. Informed leasing company I wasn't paying. She wasn't authorized driver. Car repossessed from outside Haley's place. Cue frantic calls from Haley, Olivia's mom. Ignored. Forwarded to Ms. Cole. Olivia furious, but legally cornered by the consequences of inaction. The house. Got exclusive use order. Sold it relatively fast. Equity held in escrow pending division. Olivia fought for more, claiming economic disadvantage. Financial discovery, the kicker. Pushed hard. Olivia had to disclose. Turns out she had a separate savings account, parents' contributions over years, and some inherited stocks she forgot. Not huge, but more than the $500 in the dormant joint account. Mr. Peterson argued, separate property. Ms. Cole proved commingling and marital funds, enabling her to keep them untouched. Anonymous complaint. No direct proof, but judge noted the timing, nature, and final proceedings. Didn't win damages, but added to the bad faith picture. Final settlement. Settled just before a contested trial. Judge signaled impatience with Olivia's tactics in pre-trial talks. Facing worse outcome, plus potentially paying my fees, Olivia agreed. Assets. House equity nearly 50-50. Slight edge to me due to her hidden assets factored in. Stocks divided as marital property. She kept her small personal savings. Spousal support. Time limited. 2 years. Rehabilitative alimony. Significantly less than demanded. Enough to help her transition, not fund old lifestyle. Contingent on efforts to become self-supporting. Legal fees. Each paid their own. A win, avoided fighting for her to pay mine. Aftermath. Olivia's in a small apartment. Working more, complaining about money, heard indirectly. Haley distanced herself after Olivia became a burden. Parents likely still helping. Remorse? Apology? Zero. Still seems baffled I didn't just fund her life post-detonation. The entitlement runs deep. She genuinely felt owed her lifestyle regardless. Me? Rough 7 months. Expensive. Stressful. But I'm good. Better, actually. Peace from closing that chapter is huge. Kept my job, integrity, fair asset share. Learned I handle crises strategically. Hitting the gym, seeing friends Olivia disliked, enjoying my quiet house. No Hollywood revenge, just steady, grinding consequences of her choices meeting logical, legal resistance. She wanted formal and legal? Got it, with all the cold financial reality. That's satisfaction enough. Thanks for the space to vent. Helped immensely. Time to move forward.
My wife texted, "I'm taking the kids and leaving. You'll hear from my lawyer." I replied, "Noted." Then I canceled her private cards and withheld all support. 72 hours later, her lawyer called me desperate for a deal. I, 42 male, was in the middle of a quarterly forecast review when my phone buzzed. It was from my wife, Caitlin, 39. We've been married for 15 years. I thought it might be a picture of the kids, Claire, 12, and Howard, 8, at the park. It wasn't. The text read, "I'm taking the kids and leaving. You'll hear from my lawyer." I stared at it. The numbers on my spreadsheet swam in my vision. My first instinct was pure animal panic. I fumbled with my phone, my thumb hovering over her contact. My heart was a drum against my ribs. Call her. Fix this. But what would I say? Beg? Yell? The text wasn't a conversation starter. It was a door slamming shut from 100 miles away. I stood up and walked to the window, my legs unsteady. I looked down at the street below, but I saw nothing. My mind was a chaotic slideshow. The kids' faces, the day we bought our house, Caitlin laughing on our last vacation. This couldn't be real. There was no fight, no warning, just execution. I tried to call her, straight to voicemail. I called again, voicemail. The finality of it started to sink in, and the panic began to curdle into something else, something cold and sharp. I'm a data analyst. My job is to find the pattern, the signal in the noise. Her message, the cold language, the immediate threat of a lawyer, was the signal. This wasn't an emotional outburst. This was step 1 of a plan. Her plan. The thought cleared my head like an ice bath. I was a variable in her equation, one she expected to behave in a predictable way, fall apart, chase her, offer anything to make it stop. I sat back down at my desk, the spreadsheet still glowing on the screen. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clicking into place. It was a defense mechanism, I guess. When the emotional response is too overwhelming, the logical brain takes over. I looked at her text again. I typed back a single word, noted. Then I put my phone on silent and got to work. My work, for the rest of the day, had nothing to do with quarterly forecasts. Step 1, damage control. My first thought was chaos, but my second was practical. Money. I provide a very comfortable life. Caitlin hasn't worked since Claire was born. Her lifestyle, the expensive hobbies, the organic everything, the endless stream of packages from upscale brands, is funded entirely by my salary. I opened my browser. I am the primary account holder for our American Express Platinum card. Caitlin has a supplementary card that functions as her wallet. With a shaking hand, I navigated the website. I felt a pang of something. Guilt, betrayal, as I clicked through the prompts. I didn't report it lost. I was too honest for that. I simply logged into my account and, under Manage Users, I froze her card. The website asked for a reason. I typed account holder's discretion. Next, the debit card. It's linked to the main household account where my salary is deposited. It's my personal account, but she's had access to it for years. I couldn't remove her without going to the bank, but I could control the funds. I logged in and transferred 95% of the balance to a separate, high-yield savings account in my name only. I left about $1,000 in there, enough for necessities, for the kids. I wasn't a monster, but I was cutting off the fuel line to her war machine. Step 2. Legal counsel. I have a lawyer, Miss Brooke, on a small retainer for my consulting work. She's sharp, pragmatic, and allergic to drama. My email to her was a mess, a jumble of panic and facts. I attached a screenshot of the text. Her reply came back in under an hour, a beacon of calm in my storm. Deep breath, Joel. Do not engage with her further. Do not offer anything. Document everything. Let's talk at 9 a.m. tomorrow. We will handle this. That night, I walked into a house that was silent in a way I'd never heard before. Every creak of the floorboards echoed. I saw Howard's sneakers by the door and felt a physical ache in my chest. I went upstairs and saw the closet. A chunk of her clothes was gone, the expensive stuff. Her jewelry box was empty. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. She had been planning, packing, lying. The calls started around dinner time. I let them go to voicemail, my heart pounding each time the phone lit up. Voicemail 1. Joel, my Amex was just frozen. Frozen. I was trying to buy the kids pizza. What is happening? Call me. This is not okay. Her voice was high-pitched, laced with disbelief. Voicemail 2. An hour later. Okay, I see what you did with the bank account. Are you insane? Are you actually punishing your children because you're having a tantrum? Jenna is a lawyer, a paralegal, whatever, and she says this is financial abuse and you could get in serious trouble. You will be hearing from my lawyer. The mention of her sister Jenna clarified things. Jenna, twice divorced and perpetually aggrieved, had been whispering in Caitlin's ear for years. I ate a bowl of cereal for dinner, standing over the sink. I noted the times of her calls. This morning, not 72 hours later, I got the call from Ms. Brooke. Joel, a Mr. Craig, representing Caitlin, just called me. He started with a lot of bluster about financial abuse and your unilateral aggression. But when I didn't bite, his tone changed. He started talking about Caitlin's distress and the well-being of the children. He was fishing, trying to see if we'd panic and offer a quick, large cash settlement to make it go away. Apparently, 3 days of living in Jenna's cramped two-bedroom apartment with 2 restless kids was not the glorious liberation Caitlin had envisioned. Reality was biting hard. Ms. Brooke continued. He ended the call by saying he was sure we could come to a swift and amicable temporary arrangement. Joel, that's lawyer speak for my client is out of cash and this is not going according to plan. They expected you to beg. You didn't. I'm not a hero. I'm a mess. I didn't sleep for 2 nights. But they made a critical error. They assumed that a quiet man was a weak man. They mistook my patience for passivity. This is just the beginning, and Caitlin is about to learn the difference. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks of agonizing silence and strategic maneuvering. The initial panic has subsided, replaced by a grim resolve. Thank you for the messages of support. It's a strange comfort to know I'm not alone in this. Miss Brooke advised against making any formal offers. Let them sweat, she said. The burden of action is on them. They're the ones who blew up the status quo. So we waited. The pressure campaign, however, began in earnest. The emotional leverage. The first move was, predictably, the children. My phone rang last Tuesday, and it was Claire. Hi, sweetie. How are you? Daddy? Her voice was wobbly. Mommy's crying a lot. She said she can't buy us our favorite snacks. Aunt Jenna is making us eat weird vegan stuff. A pause. I could hear Jenna whispering in the background. And Howard misses his bed. He has to sleep on the floor in a sleeping bag. It was a gut punch. A calculated, vicious blow using my daughter as the weapon. My instinct was to promise anything, to say I'd fix it. But Miss Brooks' voice was in my head. Document. Don't engage. Oh, sweetie, that sounds tough, I said, my voice thick with emotion I was trying to hide. You know your bed and Howard's bed are right here waiting for you. The house is waiting for you. I miss you both so much. This is a grown-up problem, Claire. It's not your fault, and I am working hard to sort it out. I love you. Mommy said you changed the locks. I closed my eyes. That's not true, honey. The locks are the same. Can you put your mom on the phone for a second? The line went dead. I meticulously typed up a summary of the call, including the direct quotes I could remember, and emailed it to Ms. Brooke. Her reply, parental alienation. It's a classic, and it's ugly. We will use this. The discovery I spent the last week in a haze, rattling around the empty house. I needed a copy of Howard's birth certificate for a school form, and knew Caitlin kept important documents in the study. While searching through the filing cabinet, I noticed her old laptop tucked away on a bookshelf, gathering dust. She'd gotten a new MacBook Air for her birthday last year and hadn't touched this one since. I don't know why I did it. A mix of sadness and a gnawing suspicion that I was missing a big piece of the puzzle. I opened it up and powered it on. It went to a login screen. I tried all the usual passwords, our anniversary, the kids' birthdays, our dog's name. Nothing. Locked out. I felt a surge of frustration and was about to give up when I remembered a conversation from a year ago. She'd been crowing about a new password system she'd learned at a Digital Security for Women seminar, one I'd paid for, of course. It was based on a memorable phrase. I sat there for 20 minutes, my mind blank, and then it hit me. A phrase she used constantly when she was feeling spiritual after her yoga classes. My truth shines one. I typed it in. The screen flickered and the desktop appeared. There was no affair folder. It wasn't that simple. I started poking around. The browser history was the first clue. Websites for condo rentals but only 2-bedroom units. Searches for co-applicant mortgage requirements. Then the email. She was logged in. I opened it, my heart pounding. I didn't have to look far. There was a long email chain with her sister Jenna, with the subject line, The Phoenix Plan. It laid out everything. The timeline for leaving, the curated list of assets to demand, the name of the lawyer Jenna had recommended. And the name Fred was everywhere. Fred, her wellness guru. Once Joel is served, Fred thinks we should offer to settle quickly if he gives us the house in a lump sum, Caitlin wrote in one email. Fred's studio equipment isn't cheap, and we need to get set up before the Bali trip in the fall. I felt the air leave my lungs. Bali. Studio equipment. I dug deeper and found the Notes app. There, she drafted a budget. It was a list of my life's work, converted into their shopping list. Joel's 401k, S-value, $XXX. Investment portfolio, $XXX. At the bottom was a projected monthly budget for her and Fred, including condo mortgage, Fred's car payment, and a line item for $3,000 a month, discretionary spending. They weren't just planning a divorce. They were planning to gut me and wear my financial skin as a costume. I spent the next 5 hours meticulously photographing every screen with my phone, backing the pictures up to a new secure cloud account, and then to a separate hard drive. I felt sick, but also strangely vindicated. I wasn't crazy. My reaction wasn't an overreaction. The next morning I sent a link to the secure folder to Miss Brooke. I didn't add any commentary. The evidence spoke for itself. She called me an hour later. Her voice was different. The usual calm professionalism was gone, replaced by a cold fury. Joel, she said, this is no longer a messy divorce. This is attempted, premeditated fraud. They've given us a gift. A very, very ugly gift. We're done waiting. We're filing tomorrow. Update 2. It's been 3 months of a grinding, ugly war. The idea that any divorce is quick is a fantasy. The legal system moves at the speed of a glacier, and the emotional toll is a daily reality. After my discovery on Caitlin's old laptop, Ms. Brooke filed a motion for a temporary orders hearing, requesting I be granted temporary sole physical custody due to the evidence of parental alienation and the conspiracy to commit fraud. The court date was set for 6 weeks out. 6 weeks of hell. During that time, Their tactics got more desperate and pathetic. Jenna, having been warned by Mr. Craig that Caitlin's Phoenix Plan emails could get them both in serious trouble, went underground on that front. But she started a new, insidious campaign. The social smear Jenna started talking, not posting online. Ms. Brooke had warned them about libel, but whispering, calling the parents of my kids' friends, other people in our social circle, and painting a picture of me as an unstable, controlling man who had flown into a rage and cut Caitlin off from her children. It was a masterclass in character assassination without leaving a paper trail. It almost worked. A few people grew cold. I got pitying looks at school drop-off. But then, a breakthrough. A dad from Howard's soccer team pulled me aside one Saturday. "Hey man," he said awkwardly. "I don't know what's going on, but my wife got a weird call from a Jenna. Just wanted you to know it sounded like a load of crap. If you need anything, let us know." It was a small gesture that felt monumental. It reminded me that a good reputation is built over years, and it can withstand the desperate attacks of a liar. The hearing and the consequences. The day of the temporary orders hearing was surreal. Caitlin arrived dressed like a grieving widow, dabbing at her eyes. Jenna sat behind her, radiating hate. Ms. Brooke didn't grandstand. She calmly presented the timeline. The text. The coached phone call from Claire. I had the recording, which the judge allowed. And then she submitted the printed-out emails between Caitlin and Jenna and the budget from the Notes app. Caitlin's lawyer, Mr. Craig, objected furiously, but the judge overruled him, stating the evidence was directly relevant to the circumstances of the separation and the welfare of the children. You could see the moment the judge finished reading the Bali trip and Fred's car payment email. His expression went from neutral to stone. The ruling was a bombshell for them. I was granted temporary sole physical custody. The judge stated that Caitlin's actions demonstrated a clear and disturbing pattern of prioritizing financial gain and a third-party relationship over the stability and emotional well-being of her children. Caitlin was granted supervised visitation twice a week at a certified facility. The word supervised made her audibly gasp. Picking up the kids that night was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Howard clung to me, but Claire was quiet, confused. Caitlin stood in Jenna's doorway and hissed, "I hope you're happy. You've destroyed your family." "No, Caitlin," I said, my voice quiet but shaking with rage. "I'm just the one left to clean up the wreckage. The revenge. The slow, methodical grind. With the kids safe at home, the real work began. This was my revenge. Not a fiery explosion, but a slow, methodical dismantling of her entire case, brick by brick. The forensic accountant, we hired the best. He spent 2 months combing through a decade of financial records. His report was staggering. Caitlin had been skimming systematically for years, taking extra cash from ATM withdrawals for groceries, selling expensive items I'd bought for the house on Facebook Marketplace, and pocketing the cash, getting cash back on debit purchases. It wasn't a fortune, but it added up. The total she had secretly diverted to a private bank account, one she conveniently failed to disclose, was over $32,000. It was the seed money for the Phoenix Plan. The Fred investigation. We hired a private investigator, a former cop Ms. Brooke recommended. He was worth every penny. Fred Croft was born Craig Finkelstein. He had a history. The PI uncovered 2 previous divorce cases in other states where Craig's name appeared. He hadn't been sued himself, but the husbands had accused their wives of funneling money to him. We weren't able to get sworn affidavits, nobody wanted to relive it, but we got something better. The PI found one of the ex-husbands, a retired dentist, who was so angry at seeing it happen again that he agreed to speak to Ms. Brooke. He provided copies of his own financial discovery, showing huge sums of money going to Craig for life coaching and spiritual investment. It was a clear, predatory pattern. We now had an airtight case, not just for divorce, but for fraud. The ball was in our court and we were about to serve for the match. Final update. It's been nearly a year since my life was detonated by a text message. The dust has settled, not into the picture I once had, but into a new landscape I've learned to navigate. I wanted to write a final chapter for anyone who has followed this journey. The final phase wasn't a dramatic courtroom showdown. It was a 4-hour mediation session in a sterile conference room that smelled like stale coffee. It was me, Miss Brooke, Caitlin, and a pale, sweating Mr. Craig. Before the session, Miss Brooke had presented our case to Mr. Craig in a thick, spiral-bound volume. It contained the forensic accountant's report detailing the $32,000 in hidden funds. It contained the PI's entire file on Fred, aka Craig Finkelstein, including the documented evidence from the dentist in another state. It contained the parental alienation evidence. And it contained a draft of a civil fraud complaint we were prepared to file against both Caitlin and Craig. The offer on the table was brutal and non-negotiable. Custody. I retained sole physical and legal custody. Caitlin would have bi-weekly, unsupervised daytime visits, contingent on her completing a court-mandated parenting course and a psychological evaluation. No overnights for at least 2 years. Assets, the house and all its contents were to be signed over to me. Of the remaining marital assets, my retirement accounts being the bulk of it, her 50% share would have the $32,000 she stole deducted directly from it. Support, no alimony. Period. Given the evidence of fraud, Miss Brooke argued successfully that any claim to spousal support was forfeited. We offered her a one-time lump sum payout that was barely enough to cover her legal fees and a security deposit on an apartment. Caitlin started the mediation by trying to cry. She spoke about our memories, about the good years. It was a pathetic performance. Miss Brooke simply pushed the file on Craig Finkelstein across the table and said, "Is this one of the good years you were referring to?" Caitlin was silent for the rest of the session. Mr. Craig, knowing he was beaten, advised her to sign. She did, her signature a furious scribble. The aftermath. The consequences of the Phoenix Plan have been grimly predictable. Craig Finkelstein vanished the moment his name appeared in legal documents. The PI noted he has recently started a new Instagram account, now offering services as a relationship exit strategist. The parasite has rebranded. Caitlin lives in a dingy apartment complex across town. The lump sum is gone. She works as a cashier at a large home improvement store, forced into a fluorescent-lit reality of a job she feels is beneath her. Jenna, I've heard, has kept her distance. The bonds of sisterly outrage apparently don't extend to co-signing a lease. She sees the kids every other weekend. I am meticulously polite and emotionally barren in our exchanges. I drop them off, I pick them up. Her attempts to engage me are met with a calm, "Is there anything else regarding the children?" The entitlement is still there, simmering under the surface. She isn't sorry for what she did. She's enraged that she was caught and that it failed so spectacularly. She recently sent a rambling email demanding I pay for her car repairs, claiming it was for the safety of the children. I had Ms. Brooke reply with a link to the city's public transit website. There was no further correspondence. The new normal. As for me, I'm healing. It's a slow process. The betrayal hollowed out a part of me, and some days, the silence in the house is deafening. But there are good days. Last weekend, I was in the backyard with the kids. Claire was trying to teach me a TikTok dance, and Howard was trying to get our old dog to play fetch, and I just watched them, and I felt content. It wasn't the ecstatic happiness of a life without problems, but the quiet, sturdy peace of a life that had survived a hurricane. The revenge wasn't a single, satisfying moment of triumph. It was the long, exhausting process of standing my ground. It was the mountain of paperwork, the sleepless nights, the quiet resolve to see it through. It was choosing strategy over anger and facts over drama. She built a fantasy, and I dismantled it with the truth. She was left with the consequences of her choices, and I was left with everything that was real and ever truly mattered. My children, my home, and a future I get to build on my own terms. During a toast, my wife claimed she supported us both while I was finding myself. So during my turn of toast, I played a voicemail of her forcing me to pay for her new car for everyone to hear. 2 minutes later, her parents were furiously calling me. Original post, I'm sitting here replaying Saturday night in my head. It's Monday evening now, still feels unreal. So, context. My wife, Maya, 36F, and I have been married 10 years. We have 2 kids, 7F, 5M. Generally, things were okay. Ups and downs like anyone. About 18 months ago, I left a high-stress corporate job to join a tech startup. Less pay initially, equity potential, much better work-life balance. It was a calculated risk we discussed. Maya was theoretically supportive, but lately, tension. Mostly about money, specifically her wanting a new car. Not needing, wanting. A brand new Lexus NX 350h, fully loaded. Our current cars are fine, paid off. But she needed this upgrade apparently. I kept saying, Maya, not right now. Startup cash flow is tight. Let's wait a year or until things stabilize. It's irresponsible. Sensible, right? Apparently not. The pressure ramped up. Constant comments, comparisons to friends, then voicemails, like guilt-trippy, demanding voicemails left while I was at work. I saved one from last week because it was particularly revealing. Fast forward to Saturday, our 10th anniversary party. We hosted a nice dinner party at a local restaurant's private room, something we'd saved up for specifically for the milestone, maybe 40 people. Friends, family, some colleagues. Maya was in her element. Everything seemed fine, until the toasts. Her best friend gave a nice toast. My brother did too. Then Maya took the mic. She started okay, talking about our journey. Then she drops this gem. And I know the last year or so hasn't been easy. With Leo, finding himself, she said with this patronizing little smile, it's been tough. But I've been happy to hold down the fort, support us both financially, making sure the kids and I didn't feel the pinch too much while he figured things out. Record scratch. WTF. The room got awkward. People know I work my ass off at the startup. Finding himself? Implying she's bankrolling us? My salary is lower right now, but I still contribute significantly. We're not destitute by any means, just prioritizing stability over luxury splurges like a 60K plus SUV. Her phrasing made it sound like I was unemployed while she heroically paid all the bills. Absolute BS. I felt my face get hot, saw my parents exchange a look. Saw her parents, usually lovely people, look confused and concerned. Maya just beamed like she delivered some inspiring monologue. Then it was my turn. My prepared toast went out the window. I walked up, took the mic, stayed calm, looked right at Maya. Wow, Maya, thank you for that perspective. I started, voice level. It's true, transitioning to the startup world involved adjustments, and speaking of support and financial adjustments, pulled out my phone, found the voicemail, hit play, holding the phone to the mic. Maya's voice, slightly whiny but firm. Leo, listen. I saw the perfect NX 350h today. Pearl white. We need this. I deserve something nice after, well, everything. You keep saying wait, but waiting is getting embarrassing. Just figure out the money, Leo. Make it happen. I expect that deposit sorted by Friday. Okay, don't make this difficult. Talk soon. Dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. The entitlement, the pressure, the dismissiveness of my concerns. It hung heavy in the air. Maya's face went from beaming to horrified. Color drained completely. She looked like she was going to be sick. I put the phone away. So, yes, I said quietly into the mic. Financial support is complex. Happy anniversary, Maya. To 10 years. I put the mic down and walked back to my seat. Didn't look at anyone. The party vibe just died. People started murmuring. Within 15 minutes, folks were making awkward excuses and leaving. It was brutal. Maya avoided my eyes, surrounded by a couple of her friends looking daggers at me. We drove home in absolute silence. The kids were with my parents overnight, thank God. Maya locked herself in the guest room. The next morning, Sunday, my phone rang. It was her dad, Richard. I braced myself. Leo, he sounded heavy, concerned. Richard, hi. Son, Carol and I were hearing things about last night. Talked to a few people, including Maya briefly this morning. She wasn't making much sense. What actually happened with the toasts? Someone mentioned a voicemail? Yeah, Maya's toast wasn't accurate about our finances. Made me sound like dead weight. So during my turn, I played a voicemail she left me last week, pressuring me about that Lexus she wants. Long pause, heard him sigh. Okay, that explains the defensiveness we got from her. Leo, Carol and I are very concerned about both of you, about what this means. That toast description sounds unfair, and pressuring you via voicemail over a car right now, it doesn't sound right. We need to understand this better. But son, based on what we're piecing together, her behavior sounds deeply inappropriate. He said they wanted to talk to us both, maybe together, maybe separately. It wasn't the immediate fury the title hinted at, but it was clear they weren't impressed with Maya's reported actions. The fury part, I suspected, would come after they got the full unspun story. So yeah, that's where we are. Awkward party. Wife in self-imposed exile in the guest room, her parents concerned and clearly leaning towards Maya WTF. Marriage status, critical. Did I go too far playing the voicemail? Maybe. But her public lie pushed me there. Don't know what happens next. Update 1 week later. Wow. Okay, thanks for all the comments and DMs. Mostly supportive, some saying I torched the marriage, maybe. Some saying Maya got what she deserved. Maybe too. It's been a wild week. The fallout. Maya stayed in the guest room for 2 days. Communication was basically zero. When she finally emerged, it wasn't with an apology. Oh no? It was anger. How could you, Leo? She hissed. We were in the kitchen, kids thankfully at school. Humiliating me like that, in front of everyone. My parents are questioning me constantly. Humiliating you? I asked, genuinely baffled. Maya, you stood up and basically called me a kept man after I took a calculated risk we agreed on. You lied about supporting us single-handedly. That was humiliating. I exaggerated slightly. It was a toast. You took it way too personally. And the voicemail? Was that an exaggeration too? Telling me to make it happen for a Lexus we don't need and agreed was irresponsible right now? Her eyes flashed. You recorded me? That's probably illegal. It's not one-party consent state for recordings. You twisted that. I was just venting. You sounded entitled, Maya, because you are acting entitled. That devolved quickly. No yelling, just cold, hard words. She genuinely seems to believe I'm the bad guy for exposing her BS. Enter the flying monkeys. Her sister, Qley, 34F, called me Wednesday. Qley's always been, well, fiercely loyal to Maya to a fault. Leo, Maya is devastated. She started, no preamble. She told me what you did? Playing a private recording? That's low, even for you. Even for me? What's that supposed to mean, Qley? It means you've been difficult ever since this startup thing. Maya feels neglected. She feels like she deserves something nice and you're just shutting her down. That toast? Maybe clumsy, but she was trying to express how hard it's been. By lying? And the car isn't something nice, Qley. It's a 60 cal vehicle we don't need right now. The voicemail wasn't venting, it was demanding. She's your wife. You're supposed to provide. You humiliated her in front of her parents. Her parents apologized to me for her behavior, Qley. They heard the voicemail too afterwards. They were furious with her. That shut her up for a second. Well, they're old-fashioned. They don't understand the pressures Maya is under. Okay, Qley. I'm not arguing about this. Maya misrepresented our situation publicly and has been applying unacceptable pressure privately. I reacted. End of story. You owe her an apology. No, Qley, I don't. Hung up. The parental front. My parents are supportive but worried. Told me they love me but hope we can fix it. Advised counseling. Maya's parents, Richard and Carol, did talk to us both separately midweek. Richard called me afterwards. Leo, he sounded grim. We spoke to Maya at length. She tried every excuse. Blamed you, blamed stress, said the toast was a joke, said the voicemail was misunderstood. We didn't buy it, not one bit. Carol is heartbroken. I am furious with her. The lack of respect, the financial pressure, the entitlement, it's unacceptable. We told her as much. We told her she owes you a profound apology and needs to fix this. Leo, we apologize to you for her behavior. This isn't how we raised her. Maya's current tactics. She's now alternating between icy silence and passive-aggressive comments. Little digs about money, about the startup. Yesterday, she left a brochure for the damn Lexus on my home office desk. Seriously, no note, just the brochure. Open to the page with the pearl white one. It's like she thinks she can still wear me down. My stance, am I guilty about the public humiliation? A bit. It was harsh, but honestly, less guilty than I thought I'd be. Her entitlement and the public lie felt like a massive betrayal. I won't apologize for reacting to that. The car is obviously a non-starter. We're coexisting for the kids right now, but it's tense AF. Haven't discussed divorce, haven't discussed counseling, just limbo. But the Lexus brochure? That tells me she hasn't learned a damn thing. TLDR, wife still thinks she's the victim. Her sister is backing her play. My parents are worried. Her parents talked to both of us, are now furious with her after hearing her excuses, apologized to me, and told her to fix it. She hasn't. Wife left Lexus brochure on my desk. Tension level, high. Update 2, 1 month later. Alright folks, buckle up. The entitlement didn't just escalate, it went supernova. And yeah, I guess you could say I went full scorched earth in response. Within realistic, legal boundaries, of course. I'm just a regular guy, remember? The Cold War at home, living together has been hell. Maya swung between acting like nothing happened, weirdly cheerful, asking about my day, and pulling manipulative stunts. Stunt 1, the kids. Caught her telling our daughter, 7F, Mommy would love a new safe car so we can go on fun trips, but Daddy says we can't afford anything nice right now because of his job. Had to shut that down fast. Explained to my daughter, age appropriately, that our current cars are very safe, and Daddy's job is building something cool for the future. And sometimes families have to wait for big purchases. Maya denied saying it that way, of course. Gaslighting 101. Stunt 2, financial negligence. Started getting cagey about her own spending. She has a part-time job, decent hourly rate but inconsistent hours. Bills I usually handled, she suddenly took care of, but was vague about details. Found out she'd paid our property taxes late, incurring a penalty, because she'd spent her contribution money on clothes and spa days. Claimed she deprioritized it, thinking the penalty wouldn't be much, and things were tight. Because of her spending, right. Stunt 3, the social campaign. Heard from mutual friends that Maya and Qley were spinning a tale about how I'm controlling, financially punitive, and emotionally volatile ever since the startup, painting me as the unstable one who blew up at the party over a misunderstanding. Some friends bought it, others saw through the BS. The breaking point. The final straw wasn't even the Lexus, though the brochures kept appearing. It was discovering she'd opened a new credit card in her name only, fine, but likely exaggerated her income consistency potential on the application, alongside listing our actual household income to secure a surprisingly high limit, not fine, and then maxed it out. On what? A solo weekend trip to clear her head, designer bags, high-end salon treatments. Found the statement accidentally. About $15. Confrontation time. Calmly laid the statement on the table. Maya, explain this. She went pale, then defiant. It's my card, my finances. You likely misrepresented your income stability to get this limit. You spent $15,000 we don't have spare right now, after causing a tax penalty, while still passive-aggressively pushing for a luxury SUV. First, she tried justifying her original actions again. I wouldn't be so stressed if you hadn't attacked me at the party. That toast was nothing. When I didn't back down, she pivoted, tears welling up. Well, you humiliated me. You made me look like a fool. I was upset. I deserved something nice after that. That Lexus would have made me feel better, but since you won't provide. That was it. The utter lack of remorse, the continued focus on the damn car, the attempt to hide debt, and now using my reaction to her initial betrayal as justification for financial infidelity. I snapped. Not yelling, but cold, hard clarity. The revenge, Operation Financial Reality. I didn't play another voicemail. This required a more structured response. Budget lockdown. Sat down. Forced her to sit down with all the numbers. Bank accounts, my startup salary, actual, not projected, her part-time income, bills, debts, including her new $15. Laid it out starkly. Showed her exactly why the Lexus was impossible and how her secret credit card debt now actively harmed our financial goals, like saving for kids' college, retirement. No more ambiguity. Debt responsibility. Told her the $15K credit card debt was hers to pay off. From her income. We'd calculate her proportional contribution to essential household bills based on her actual income, and the rest of her earnings were to go straight to that debt. No more fun money until it was cleared. Period. Non-negotiable. Allowance cut, her fun money. The small amount I used to transfer to her personal account for incidentals? Stopped. Effective immediately. Her income needed to cover her personal spending and her debt first. Parental involvement. Nuclear option. This was the big one. I called both sets of parents for a family meeting, just us four and Maya and me. Laid out everything. The toast lie, the voicemail pressure, the manipulating the kids, the late tax payment, the secret credit card, the $15 debt, the continued Lexus obsession, the bad-mouthing campaign. Showed them the credit card statement. Maya tried to interrupt, cry, justify. Her parents, especially Richard, looked like they were going to explode, building on their previously expressed disapproval. My parents looked deeply disappointed in her. Richard finally cut her off. Enough, Maya. We told you to fix this. Instead, you lied, you manipulated, you spent money you don't have, and you're trying to blame Leo? For what? For working hard? For being responsible? This behavior is appalling. Carol echoed him. tears in her eyes, saying she didn't recognize the daughter she raised. They told her, point blank, they would not be bailing her out of the credit card debt. They supported my plan for her to pay it off herself. My parents backed me completely, stating clear boundaries were needed. The aftermath of the meeting. Maya completely shut down. Didn't speak for a day. Her sister Qley tried calling me again. You got mommy and daddy involved? You're trying to isolate her. Told her Maya made her bed. Now she lies in it. And hung up. The consequences. Maya is now facing the music. No Lexus. A $15 debt she has to budget and pay herself from her variable part-time income. Her parents are holding her accountable. Her fun money is gone. She has to contribute fairly to the house based on reality, not wishes. It's not about punishing her. It's about her facing the direct, unavoidable consequences of her entitled actions and financial irresponsibility. Watching her realize the bank of Leo and mom and dad is closed? Yeah, that feels like justice. Is it satisfying? In a grim way, yes. This entitled bullshit had to stop. Is the marriage salvageable? Still don't know, but the dynamic has shifted. The entitlement has met a brick wall made of spreadsheets and parental disappointment. Final update. 6 months later. Hey Reddit. Been a while. 6 months since the family meeting intervention. Thought I owed you all a final chapter on this saga. Life after the financial reckoning. Things are different. Not magically fixed, but fundamentally altered. The immediate aftermath of that meeting was rough. Maya was sullen, resentful, barely speaking. She hated the budget, hated having to track her spending from her fluctuating income, hated that her parents called her weekly, not to enable, but to ask pointed questions about her debt repayment plan. Qley basically declared me persona non grata. Fine by me. Did Maya magically see the light and apologize profusely? Lol, no. Entitlement like that doesn't just evaporate. There wasn't a single movie moment epiphany. It was more like a slow, grinding erosion of her fantasy world against the hard rocks of reality. The debt, she is paying it down, slowly, painfully. Picked up more shifts when available. Complained constantly at first. Tried suggesting I should cover half since we're married. Nope, her secret debt, her responsibility, backed by parents. The complaining lessened as the balance finally started to shrink. Reality check. Actions have consequences. The Lexus, never mentioned again after the family meeting. She's still driving her old car. Saw her looking at sensible used Toyotas online once. Progress? The entitlement. It's still there, under the surface. Little flashes of resentment, but the overt demands and manipulations stopped. The united front of me plus both sets of parents made it clear that route was closed. She knows she has no allies for her BS anymore. The lie toast. She eventually mumbled a half apology about the toast coming out wrong during one of the early therapy sessions. Not great, but acknowledging it was something. The voicemail? Still claims it was stress. Baby steps, I guess. The road to repair? Maybe. The weeks after the meeting were bleak. Divorce felt very possible. What changed, honestly? The kids. And both sets of parents pushing hard for professional help before calling it quits. They saw the dysfunction Maya caused, but didn't want the family blown apart if it could be salvaged. We started couples therapy about 4 months ago. It's grueling. No breakthroughs yet, but it's a structured place to talk. Our therapist is good. Doesn't let Maya slide on the financial infidelity or the entitlement issues. Doesn't let me slide on the public voicemail stunt either. Acknowledges why I did it, but explores healthier conflict resolution. Fair enough. Therapy is forcing Maya to confront her warped views on money, status, and respect. It's forcing me to confront my communication failures, saving voicemails instead of addressing issues head-on earlier maybe, and the lingering anger. Where we are now, we're still together, still in therapy. It's not a rom-com ending where love conquers all overnight. It's fragile. Trust is fractured, maybe permanently. I'm wary, guarded. I manage our finances transparently, but with clear boundaries now. No more assumptions. Maya, she's quieter, less focused on appearances. Maybe starting to understand the damage she did, or maybe just realizing the consequences are unavoidable. Hard to tell sometimes. She interacts more genuinely with the kids, less performatively. Her parents are cautiously optimistic, but remain firm with her about financial responsibility. My parents are relieved we're trying therapy. Qley still thinks I'm the devil. So, justice served? Kinda. Maya faced real, tangible consequences engineered not just by me, but by the natural weight of her own bad decisions and the intervention of family who refused to enable her. She didn't get the car, she got debt and accountability. The satisfaction isn't about revenge, it's about the fact that the entitled narrative finally crashed and burned against reality. Will we make it? 50-50, but we're talking. We're in therapy. The Lexus is gone from conversation. That's the update. Thanks for listening, Reddit. It helped, actually. Time to log off and live this messy, complicated reality.
I let my ex stay with me during a crisis, and it backfired horribly. I, 37M, never imagined I'd find myself in this situation. 3 years after our messy breakup, my ex showed up on my doorstep crying about being evicted. 2 weeks later, she was claiming my house belonged to her. But calm as a bitch, and so was the look on her face when she realized who she was messing with. For context, I'm a construction project manager. I bought my house 6 years ago, a fixer-upper that needed serious work, but the location was perfect and the price was right. I spent almost 2 years renovating it myself on weekends and after work. New roof, updated plumbing, refinished hardwood floors, completely remodeled kitchen. Blood, sweat, and a whole lot of cursing went into making it the comfortable home it is today. I met Melissa 4 years ago through mutual friends. She was gorgeous, fun, and seemed genuinely interested in me. We hit it off immediately and started dating. 6 months in, she moved into my place. Things were good for a while. We hosted backyard barbecues, went on weekend trips, all that couple shit. She lived with me for about 1.5 years total. Around the 8-month mark, things started changing. She quit her job as a dental receptionist, claiming her boss was toxic, and she needed a break. No problem, I supported her decision. But weeks turned into months, and she made zero effort to find another job. Instead, she spent her days scrolling through social media, watching reality TV, and complaining about how bored she was. When I'd gently ask about her job search, she'd get defensive. Why are you so obsessed with me working? Do you think I'm just using you for money or something? Meanwhile, she was constantly buying expensive clothes and makeup, racking up my credit card bills. When I brought it up, she accused me of being financially controlling. Classic deflection. The final straw came when I discovered she'd been cheating with her personal trainer. I found messages on her phone while she was in the shower, explicit conversations about their sessions when I was at work. When confronted, she didn't even deny it, just shrugged and said, "You've been so distant lately. What did you expect?" I kicked her out that same day. She moved in with the trainer, and I spent the next few months rebuilding my life and my bank account. Changed the locks, cut contact, the whole post-breakup drill. 3 years passed without a word from her. I dated occasionally, but focused mainly on my career and home improvements. Then, 2 months ago, my doorbell rang around 9 p.m. on a rainy Tuesday. I opened the door to find Melissa standing there, mascara running down her face, looking like a drowned rat. "What the hell are you doing here?" I asked, not bothering to hide my surprise or annoyance. "I've been evicted," she sobbed. "Connor and I broke up months ago. I've been staying with friends, but I've run out of options. I just need a place for a few days until my new apartment is ready. Please, I have nowhere else to go." Every instinct told me to shut the door, but it was pouring rain, and despite everything, I'm not completely heartless. Plus, my neighbor was watching from their window, and I didn't want to look like the asshole turning away a crying woman in the storm. 3 days, I said firmly. You can sleep on the couch. Then you're gone. She thanked me profusely, hugged me, which I did not reciprocate, and brought in a single suitcase. I showed her to the couch, gave her some blankets, and went to bed, mentally kicking myself for being so damn soft. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and bacon. Melissa was in the kitchen wearing one of my t-shirts, cooking breakfast like it was 2019 again. "Morning!" she chirped. "I made your favorite bacon, eggs over easy, and sourdough toast." I mumbled thanks and ate quickly, uncomfortable with this bizarre domestic scene. Before leaving for work, I reminded her this was temporary. "Of course," she smiled sweetly. "I really appreciate this. My new place will be ready soon, I promise." When I got home that evening, the house was spotless. She cleaned everything, done my laundry, and was cooking dinner. For a split second, I remembered why I'd fallen for her in the first place. But then I remembered finding those messages, and the feeling faded fast. Days passed, and Melissa made herself comfortable, too comfortable. She unpacked her suitcase, arranged her toiletries in the bathroom, and started using we and our when talking about the house. Red flags were popping up, but I ignored them because, honestly, coming home to a clean house and cooked meals wasn't terrible after working 10-hour days. A week in, I asked about her apartment situation. "Oh, there's been a slight delay," she said vaguely. "The previous tenant is having trouble finding a new place. Maybe another week." I should have pushed harder, but I was busy with a challenging project at work and didn't have the energy for confrontation. Big mistake. The following Sunday, I was working in the backyard when my neighbor, Frank, came over. "Hey man, your wife was telling me about your renovation plans for the master bathroom. Sounds ambitious! Exclamation point. I nearly choked. My what now? Your wife. The blonde. She said you guys got back together and are redoing the house. My blood boiled as I explained she was definitely not my wife and just staying temporarily. Frank looked shocked and embarrassed. "Whoa, sorry, dude. I had no idea. She seemed so at home here. Even showed me some paint samples and asked my opinion. That's really weird." Frank quickly changed the subject, but the damage was done. My irritation was evolving into serious concern about what Melissa was up to. That night, I confronted Melissa. "Why the fuck are you telling people you're my wife? And what renovation plans?" She flipped the script immediately. "Why are you yelling at me? I just mentioned I had some ideas for the bathroom, and Frank assumed we were together. It's not my fault. You need to find somewhere else to stay. Now, this isn't working." Her demeanor changed instantly. "I've actually been thinking, this house has so much potential, but you're not utilizing the space properly. If I move back in permanently, I could really make it shine. Remember how good we were together. Are you serious right now? You cheated on me, remember? This is my house. You need to leave." She smiled in a way that made my skin crawl. "Actually, I've been doing some research. Since I lived here for over a year when we were together, in some states that gives me common law rights. Plus, I contributed to this household." I laughed in her face. "Contributed? You sat on your ass for months while I paid for everything. And we were never married, common law or otherwise. You're delusional." "We'll see about that," she said coldly. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. He says I have a case for partial ownership based on verbal agreements and my contributions to increasing the property value." This was absolute bullshit, but the fact that she'd consulted a lawyer worried me. Not because she had any legitimate claim. She didn't, but because even frivolous legal battles can be expensive and draining. The next day, I came home to find Melissa had invited people over, her sister and 2 friends I didn't recognize. They were drinking my expensive whiskey and acting like they owned the place. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. "Just a small housewarming." Melissa smiled, drunk and smug. "Since I'm moving back in permanently." Her sister chimed in. "You should be grateful. She's giving you another chance after how you treated her." I was speechless. The audacity was mind-blowing. This woman had cheated on me, and now she and her entourage were acting like I was the villain. "Everyone who doesn't pay rent here needs to leave. Now." I opened the front door pointedly. They left reluctantly, giving me dirty looks. Melissa stayed behind, arms crossed. "You're being ridiculous," she said. "This is my home too. You have until tomorrow morning to get your shit and get out, or I'm calling the cops." She laughed. "Go ahead. I'll tell them this is my residence, show them my old mail that's still addressed here, and explain how you're trying to illegally evict me. It'll be your word against mine." I realized then that she planned this from the start. The tears, the temporary stay story, the cooking and cleaning, all manipulation to worm her way back into my house, and now she was threatening legal action to steal what I'd worked for. That night, I barely slept. I was furious but also worried. What if she did have some obscure legal claim? What if she refused to leave? I didn't want a protracted legal battle with someone this manipulative. My anger had been building gradually since she first mentioned staying longer, but now seeing her true intentions, any remaining sympathy vanished. I'd given her a chance out of basic human decency, and she was exploiting it completely. The next morning, Melissa was still asleep when I left for work. I called my buddy Dave, who's a real estate attorney, and explained the situation. "She's full of shit," Dave said immediately. "In our state, there's no common law marriage. And even if there was, you'd need to present yourselves as married for years, not just live together. As for property rights, unless her name is on the deed or mortgage, or you had a written agreement about equity sharing, she has zero claim." "What about the illegal eviction thing?" I asked. "That's more complicated," Dave admitted. "She did establish legal tenancy when you lived together years ago, but that ended when she moved out. For this current stay, since you allowed her in as a guest, and she hasn't been there for very long, hasn't paid rent, and doesn't have any utilities in her name, we can argue she's an unwanted guest rather than a tenant. So what's my fastest option here?" "You typically need to give proper notice for eviction, usually 30 days. But given the circumstances, we could file for an emergency removal on the grounds of misrepresentation and potentially harassment. It might take a few days to get the paperwork through, though." Dave offered to start the process immediately and suggested I document everything in the meantime. "One more thing," Dave added. "If she has a key, you'll need to change the locks after she's gone. And I'd recommend installing security cameras, just in case she tries to come back." I agreed and thanked him profusely. Then I called my sister Laura, who lives nearby, and asked if she could meet me at my house later to be a witness when I confronted Melissa again. I didn't trust her not to make false accusations. 3 days later, Dave called to say the emergency removal order had been approved. The sheriff would serve Melissa with papers that afternoon, giving her 24 hours to vacate. I made sure to be home when the sheriff arrived. Melissa's face, when she saw the official standing at the door, was priceless. Shock, confusion, then anger. "There's a sheriff here with eviction papers!" "What the hell is going on?" she demanded, turning to me. "Not eviction papers," I corrected calmly. "Removal papers for an unwanted guest. You have 24 hours to get your stuff and leave." "You can't do this! I'll sue you! My attorney disagrees. "And everything is being documented, so think carefully about your next move." The sheriff explained the situation to her formally. She had until 2 p.m. tomorrow to remove her belongings or face trespassing charges. She was fuming, but seemed to understand this wasn't a bluff. Laura arrived shortly after the sheriff left, and Melissa's demeanor shifted dramatically. "I can't believe you're doing this to me," she sobbed, suddenly playing the victim again. "After everything we've been through, I have nowhere to go." Laura, bless her, wasn't buying it. "Should have thought about that before you tried to steal my brother's house," she said, flatly. "What?" That night was tense. Melissa alternated between crying, pleading, and threatening legal action. I stayed firm, with Laura staying over as a witness to everything. The next day, Melissa started packing, making as much noise as possible and slamming doors. By 1:30 p.m., most of her things were in suitcases, but she was clearly stalling. "I'm still looking for some of my stuff," she claimed, eyeing my electronics. "You came with one suitcase," I reminded her. "Anything else isn't yours." At 2 p.m. exactly, the sheriff returned as promised. Melissa tried to argue she needed more time, but he was unmoved. "Ma'am, you need to leave the premises now with whatever you've packed. If you believe there are still belongings inside, you can arrange to collect them later with the homeowner's permission and supervision." Finally, realizing she had no more cards to play, Melissa left, but not before turning on all the faucets and clogging the sinks with paper towels. Laura helped me clean up the water damage while I called a locksmith. By evening, I had new locks installed and was researching security systems online. I arrived home first the next day, and Laura came over shortly after to help me clean up further damage we discovered. Food dumped in dresser drawers, "fuck you" written in lipstick on the bathroom mirror, and what smelled like fish sauce poured into my closet, ruining many of my clothes. Over the next 2 weeks, I installed a comprehensive security system, doorbell camera, exterior cameras covering all entry points, and motion-activated lights. I was taking no chances.
Melissa's harassment continued. First came the threatening texts.
You'll regret this. I'm not done with you. Hope you enjoy the surprise I left in your bedroom.
Then she escalated to showing up at my workplace, causing a scene until security escorted her out. She even sent her brother to talk some sense into me, which ended with him threatening me until my neighbor Frank came outside and told him to leave before he called the cops. I documented everything and filed for a restraining order, which took about 3 weeks to process. The judge granted a temporary order based on the evidence of harassment, with a hearing scheduled for a permanent order. About a month after the eviction, around 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of breaking glass. Someone was trying to break in through my back door. I grabbed the baseball bat I keep under my bed and called 911, then crept downstairs. Through the kitchen window, I could see Melissa and a man I didn't recognize trying to force the door open. I flipped on the exterior lights, and they froze like deer in headlights. "Police are on their way!" I shouted through the door. "I have cameras recording everything." They ran, but not fast enough. The cops caught them 2 blocks away. Thanks to my security system, the evidence was clear, high-definition video of them breaking my window and attempting to enter. Both were arrested for attempted breaking and entering. The legal process moved slowly after that. Melissa was released on bail pending her hearing, but violating the temporary restraining order added another charge. The permanent restraining order was granted at our hearing 2 weeks later, ensuring she couldn't come within 500 feet of me, my home or my workplace. It took almost 2 months for her case to resolve. She eventually pled guilty to reduced charges in exchange for probation and paying restitution for the property damage. A week after her guilty plea, I drove by her sister's house, where Melissa had apparently been staying throughout the legal proceedings. She was sitting on the front lawn, surrounded by boxes and bags, all her possessions. She was crying hysterically into her phone. Through my open window, I could hear her begging someone for a place to stay, using the exact same lines she'd used on me. Her sister had kicked her out after the court case, embarrassed by the scandal and unwilling to house someone on probation. None of her friends would take her in either, now that her true colors were revealed. The karma was almost poetic. I didn't stop or gloat. I just drove by slowly, making eye contact briefly. Her face when she saw me was priceless. Shock, then rage, then defeat. It's been 4 months since then. My house is peaceful again. Sometimes I still find myself checking the locks twice or waking up at the slightest noise, but those moments are becoming less frequent. I've learned a valuable lesson about misplaced compassion and the importance of boundaries. The old saying is true, no good deed goes unpunished. But I've added my own corollary, no bullshit goes unchallenged, at least not in my house.